Some basic concepts of chemistry part 3. In part 2 we are already done with mathematical operations under significant figures. So now let us see what is this rounding of the significant figures. Under this rounding of the significant figures there are 3 rules. Let us study one by one. Rule number 1. Rule number 1 says that if the rightmost digit to be removed is more than 5, that is, if it is greater than 5, then the preceding number is increased by 1. Let us understand this rule by taking an example. For example, the number given is 1.386. Over here, the rightmost digit is 6, whereas 8 is nothing but it is the preceding number. So, the rule says that if the rightmost digit is 6 to be removed and if it is more than 5, then the preceding number is increased by 1. That is, if we know that 6 is greater than 5, then obviously the preceding number 8 will become 9. So, the reporting answer is not 1.386. 1.386 is rounded as 1.39. This is what rule 1 states. Going to rule 2, according to rule 2, if the rightmost digit to be removed is less than 5, rule 1 says that rightmost digit to be removed is greater than 5. Rule 2 is nothing but if the rightmost digit to be removed is less than 5, then the preceding number is not changed. Let us consider an example, that is 4.334. Here the rightmost digit to be removed is 4, whereas the preceding number is 3, and this 4 is said to be less than 5, which means that no changes are made to the preceding number and the number is rounded off as 4.33, which is the reporting answer. Now let us go to rule 3. Rule 3 says that if the rightmost digit to be removed is equal to 5, then there are two possibilities. Okay, in rule 1 we studied the rightmost digit greater than 5. Second rule we studied rightmost digit lesser than 5. Now the third rule will tell us if the rightmost digit to be removed is equal to 5, then there are two possibilities. So let us see which are these two possibilities. The first possibility is that the preceding number is not changed if it is an even number. If the preceding number is even, then no changes are made. And the another possibility is that preceding number is changed, which means that it is increased by 1 if the preceding number is odd number. Let us consider example for the first possibility. So let us see what happens if the rightmost digit is equal to 5 and the preceding number if it is even. For example, 6.25. Over here the rightmost digit is equal to 5, whereas the preceding number is 2 and this 2 is said to be an even number. If the preceding number is even, then no changes are made, then the number is rounded as 6.2. This is the reporting answer. Going to the second possibility. So what happens if the rightmost digit to be removed, if it is equal to 5 and the preceding number if it is odd? Let us see what will happen. So the example over here is 6.35. Here the rightmost digit to be removed is equal to 5. Now look at the preceding number, that is nothing but the odd number. 3 is a odd number. If the preceding number is odd, then what we are going to do? We are going to increase the preceding number by 1. So 6.35 becomes 6.4. We are going to add 1 for the preceding odd number. So it is 6.4. The reporting answer is 6.4. These are the rules under rounding of the significant figures. Going to the topic that is dimensional analysis, which is also called as factor label method or unit factor method. So what is this dimensional analysis? Dimensional analysis is nothing but it is a method of converting one unit into another. That is, dimensional analysis basically includes conversion of units. For example, converting inches to centimeter, centimeter to inches, or grams to kg, kilograms to grams. This conversion of units is nothing but dimensional analysis. Now let us have a look on some of the common unit conversions. That is, 1 mile, that is nothing but 5280 foot. 1 feet is equal to 12 inch. 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeter. 100 centimeter is nothing but 1 meter. 1 liter is equal to 1000 milliliter. 1 day is nothing but 24 hours. 1 hour is 60 minutes and 1 minute is 60 seconds. Keeping these common unit conversions in mind, let us now solve the numerical problem. So now let us go to the first numericals under dimensional analysis, and the question over here is, a piece of metal is 3 inch long. What is its length in centimeter? So in the question we have 3 inch and we want to know how many centimeter is 3 inch. So now let us consider the unit conversion. That is, we know that 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeter. If 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeter, then the ratio, that is 1 inch divided by 2.54 centimeter is equal to 1, and also the reciprocal of the ratio, that is 2.54 centimeter divided by 1 inch is also said to be equal to 1. So both these factors are said to be equal to 1. So these factors are called as unit factors. Both these factors are called as unit factors. So in the question we have 3 inch. So let us consider 3 inch. Now we have to multiply this 3 inch by any one unit factor. So which unit factor we are going to select? Over here we have inch in the numerator, and our aim is to convert this inch into centimeter, which means we want to cancel this inch. So in order to cancel the inch over here, which unit factor we are going to select? We are going to select the second unit factor which possesses inch in the denominator. So we are going to select which unit factor? We are going to select the second unit factor. So we are multiplying 3 inch into 2.54 centimeter divided by 1 inch. So what happens over here? Inch and inch get cancelled. We are left only with centimeter. So that is nothing but 3 into 2.54 centimeter, which is equal to 7.62 centimeter. So over here we are not multiplying by the first unit factor, we are multiplying by the second unit factor. Why? Because in the first unit factor the inch is in the numerator, so that we cannot cancel inch, whereas in the second unit factor, since inch is in the denominator, we can easily cancel inch and we get the answer as 7.62 centimeter. Therefore 3 inches would be equal to 7.62 centimeter. Now let us go to one more numericals which include multiple steps. And the question is, how many seconds are there in 2 days? So over here there is no direct conversion between second and days. Okay, there is no direct conversion. So let us consider 3 unit conversion, that is 1 day is equal to 24 hours. 1 hour is 60 minutes and 1 minute is 60 seconds. So If 1 day equals 24 hours, then the ratio, that is 1 day divided by 24 hours, is said to be equal to 1, and also the reciprocal 24 hours divided by 1 day is said to be equal to 1. Similarly, for the second unit conversion, that is 1 hour by 60 minutes equal 1, and 60 minutes by 1 hour is said to be equal to 1. Similarly, for the third one, that is 1 minute divided by 60 seconds is equal to 1, and 60 seconds divided by 1 minute is said to be equal to 1. So total how many unit factors are there? There are 6 unit factors, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So in the question, they have asked us how many seconds are there in 2 days. So let us now consider 2 days, which means that we want to convert this day into second. So what are we going to do? We are going to select any one unit factor out of 6 in such a way that the unit factor possesses day in the denominator. So which unit factor we are going to select? We are going to select the second unit factor. So we are multiplying 2 days with the unit factor, that is 24 hours divided by 1 day. So what happens over here? Day and day get cancelled. We are left only with hour. Now once again, what is our aim? We want to convert this hour to second. So we want to cancel hour. So in order to cancel hour, we are using one more unit factor which possesses hour in the denominator. So which unit factor we are going to select? We are going to select this fourth unit factor because it possesses hour in the denominator. So let us now multiply by 60 minutes divided by 1 hour. So what happens over here? Hour and hour get cancelled. So we are left only with minutes. Once again, we want to convert this minute to second. So what are we going to do? We are going to select one more unit factor which possesses minute in the denominator. So which unit factor we are going to select? We are going to select the last unit factor, that is 60 seconds divided by 1 minute, because it possesses minute in the denominator. So let me multiply by 60 seconds divided by 1 minute. So what happens? Minute and minute get cancelled. So we are left only with seconds. We are left only with seconds. So that is nothing but day and day get cancelled, hour and hour get cancelled, minute and minute get cancelled. We are left only with second, that is nothing but 2 into 24 into 60 into 60 seconds. When we multiply this, we get the final answer as 172800 seconds. Therefore, how many seconds are there in 2 days? It is nothing but 172800 seconds. This is how we proceed with the numericals under dimensional analysis. Going to the next topic, that is laws of chemical combination. The combination of elements to form compounds is governed by 5 basic laws. They are law of conservation of mass, law of definite proportion, law of multiple proportion, Gay-Lussac's law of gaseous volume, and the last one is Avogadro law. So these are the 5 different laws. So going to the first law, that is law of conservation of mass. This law was given by the scientist Antony Lavoisier in the year 1789. So this law states that matter can neither be created nor it can be destroyed, which means that let us consider the reactant, that is carbon plus oxygen, which will give the product that is nothing but carbon dioxide. We know that reactants will react with one another and give rise to product. And if we weigh the mass of reactant as well as the mass of product before the reaction and after the reaction, their weight or their mass will remain same. So let us check whether there will be change in mass, or do they still remain same even though the reaction has taken place? So we know that carbon atomic mass is said to be 12. Oxygen, it is 16, but since there are two oxygen atom, it is 16 into 2. So the mass of oxygen is 32 gram. Now let us go to the product side. There is carbon dioxide. Carbon atomic mass is 12 plus oxygen, it is 16. But since there are two oxygen atom, it is 16 into 2. So 12 plus 32 will give us 44 gram. Now, if we consider the mass of carbon and oxygen, that is 12 gram plus 32 gram, we get it as 44 gram, and already on the product side there is 44 gram, which means that the total mass of the reactant is said to be equal to total mass of the product, which means that mass is been conserved. So it is called law of conservation of mass. Therefore, we can say that matter is neither created nor destroyed. It only changes its form. This is law of conservation of mass. Going to the second law, that is law of definite proportion. This law was given by the scientist Joseph Proust, and the statement of this law is a given compound always contain exactly the same proportion of elements by weight. In other words, we can also state this particular law as the composition of a compound always remain fixed irrespective of the source of that compound. I repeat, the composition of a compound always remain fixed. It will always remain same. It does not change irrespective of the source of that compound. For example, let us consider water. There are various or multiple sources of water. We get water from river, lake, well, pond. We can also collect rainwater. There are various sources of water. So whatever the source of this water may be, the elements of water, that is hydrogen and oxygen, will always combine in a fixed ratio by weight as well as by volume. No matter whatever the source of the compound, the ratio by weight and volume is said to be fixed. So now let us see what is the ratio of water by volume. So ratio of water by volume is 2:1. It is because there are two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atom in water. Whereas the ratio of water by weight is nothing but the atomic mass of hydrogen is 1. Since there are two hydrogen atom, it is 1 into 2. So it is 2:, atomic mass of oxygen is 16. And this ratio, that is 2:16, can be further simplified as 2 1s are 2, 2 8s are 16. So the ratio by weight of water is 1:8. Therefore, we can conclude that water contains hydrogen and oxygen, which will always combine in 2:1 by volume and 1:8 by weight, whatever the source of water may be. This composition or this particular ratio by weight and volume for the water is said to be fixed, no matter we get the water from river, pond, lake, etc. This is what law of definite proportion mean. Now let us go to the third law, that is law of multiple proportion. This law of multiple proportion was proposed by John Dalton in the year 1803. According this law states that if two elements can combine to form more than one compound, the masses of one element that combines with the fixed mass of the other element are in the ratio of small whole numbers. Now first let us look at the first line. It means that if two elements can combine to form more than one compound, Now I have taken the example that is carbon plus oxygen. These are the two elements which will combine to form more than one compound, and the compounds which are formed are carbon monoxide. The formula is CO, capital C and capital O, carbon monoxide, and carbon and oxygen will also combine to form another product, that is carbon dioxide. The formula is CO2. So two elements can combine to form more than one compound, then the mass of one element that combines with fixed mass, okay, that combines with fixed mass of the other element. So now let us consider the mass of carbon and oxygen. So the mass of carbon in both the reactions, it is said to be equal to 12 gram. Whereas if we look at the masses of oxygen, in the first reaction, the mass of oxygen is, we know that atomic mass of oxygen is 16, and since there are two oxygen atoms, it is 16 into 2, that is 32. Whereas there is half, that is divided by 2. So 32 divided by 2 is nothing but 16 gram. Whereas in the second reaction, the mass of oxygen is said to be 32 gram, because 16 into 2 is 32 gram. Over here, carbon mass is said to be fixed, that is 12, whereas oxygen is said to have different mass in two different reactions. So what does the statement tell? The mass of one element that combined with the fixed mass of the other element. Here carbon is said to have the fixed element, whereas the oxygen mass differ. Okay, so the mass of one element that combine with the fixed mass of the other element are in the ratio of small whole numbers. That is nothing but the masses of oxygen that combines with the fixed mass of the carbon bear a simple ratio, that is 16:32. This 16:32, this is the ratio of oxygen. It can be further simplified as 16 ones are and 16 2's are. So it is further simplified as 1:2. So it will bear a small whole number. This is what law of multiple proportion mean. So if two elements, that is carbon and oxygen, can combine to form more than one compound, that is carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide, then the masses of one element that combines with the fixed mass of the other element, the fixed mass of which element over here, it is carbon, are in the ratio of small whole numbers, that is nothing but 1:2. This is what law of multiple proportion mean. Going to the fourth law, that is Gay-Lussac's law of gaseous volume. Gay-Lussac gave this law in the year 1808. And he said that the statement of the law is, when gases combine or are produced in a chemical reaction, they do so in a simple ratio by volume, provided all gases are at same temperature and same pressure. Now what does this statement mean? That is, when gases combine, which means the reactants are gases, or are produced, which means the products are also gases. So whenever we have reactants which are gases and products which are also gases, then they will have simple whole number ratio to each other. Let us understand this by taking an example. For example, we know that hydrogen will combine with oxygen to form water. We are already aware of this reaction. So over here, 2H2 will combine with O2 to produce 2H2O, which means 2 volumes of hydrogen, that is H2 plus H2 will give us 2H2. 2 volumes of hydrogen will combine with 1 volume of oxygen to produce how many volumes of water? 2 volumes of water. Suppose let us consider 1 volume of hydrogen as 50 ml. but there are 2 volumes of hydrogen. So 50 into 2 is 100 ml. So which means that 100 ml of hydrogen will combine with 50 ml of oxygen in order to produce 100 ml of water. This is what the law states. So whenever we have reactants and products which are gases, then they are said to have simple whole number ratio to each other by volume. But what's the condition over here? The condition is that the temperature and pressure of all the reactants as well as the product should be same. So what is the simple whole number ratio? The ratio over here is said to be 2:1. So the ratio of hydrogen and oxygen, that is reactants, it is 2:1. So the volume of hydrogen and oxygen which combined together bear a simple ratio of 2:1. This is what Gay-Lussac's law of gaseous volume state. Let us now go to the last law, that is nothing but Avogadro law. This law was proposed by Avogadro in the year 1811, and this Avogadro law states that equal volume of gases at the same temperature and same pressure should contain equal number of molecules. I repeat, equal volume of gases at the same temperature and same pressure will contain equal number of molecules. For example, I have taken 3 gases, that is argon, oxygen and nitrogen. The volume of 3 gas is said to be constant, that is 22.4 liter. Pressure is 1 atmosphere, whereas temperature is 273 Kelvin for all these 3 gases. So equal volume of gases at the same temperature, that is 273 Kelvin, and same pressure, that is 1 atmosphere, will contain equal number of molecules. So with this same temperature, same pressure and same volume, all these 3 gases contain 6.022 into 10 raised to the power 23 number of molecules. This is what Avogadro law states. So with volume of 22.4 liter, all the 3 gases, that is argon, oxygen and nitrogen, contain 6.022 into 10 raised to the power 23 number of molecules at 273 Kelvin and 1 atmospheric pressure. This is what Avogadro law states.